Hi, everyone. I'm Tristan Miller, and I want to welcome you to the Ask Sean Show. It is our September show, and we are very excited to have all of you here. While we're getting started and people are joining us, I'd love for you guys to introduce yourself in the chat. If you already have a question for Sean or Tom or any of our experts, please go ahead and put that in there because we want to get to all of your questions tonight. Sean and I started this show probably 2 years and a couple months ago. So we're going to be heading into our third year. And our next show is a very important holiday show. It's going to be on Tuesday, November 12th, and it's Home for the Holidays. We're going to cover everything you need to know about induction cooking and some of your kitchen appliances so you can be ready for the holidays. And I'm so excited to introduce your co-hosts tonight. The more the merrier. Joe, would you introduce yourself real quick?
Sure. Good evening, everybody. I'm Joe Galliani here tonight in my home in Redondo Beach, and I am a recently certified electric coach with Rewiring America.
We love Rewiring America. And Pete, longtime friend and awesome expert.
Hey everybody, Pete Marsh. I'm also a recently certified rewiring electric coach, and I am lucky enough to be a co-chair of Citizen Climate Lobby's National Electrification Team and work with a bunch of other building decarb groups. Sean's show has long been one of my favorites, so I'm delighted to be able to help out.
Yes, and you can find Pete's case study actually on our YouTube channel. So watch out. Once you have your case study on our show, then we try to recruit you to get involved in electrification. Because what's better than once you electrify your home to share that with everybody else? And that's what we're all about. And we'll put that in the chat. We've also had some great partners that come together for the show, the San Diego Building Decarbonization Electrification Coalition. The San Diego has all these awesome partners, including Climate Reality and Citizens Climate Lobby. So many groups have come together because it's really important. Electrification is for our health. It's to save money. And it's just also has, a better way to live. You can live better electrically. Your home is more comfortable. You guys, Pete, you want to add to that? Why people
Sure,
electrify?
absolutely.
Why you electrified?
Yeah. The number on this slide comes from Rewiring America, who we've already mentioned, and their founder, Saul Griffith, who, along with another team, dove through 50 years of data from the Energy Information Administration. They wound up realizing that 42% of our greenhouse gas emissions in this country are under the decision-making control of us as homeowners. And even as renters, we have some control, but homeowners have complete control. And so there's fantastic reasons to do this. And if what that means is if we as homeowners just transition the gas, fossil burning machines in our lives from gas to electric, we will cut down over a third of U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. That includes our space heaters, water heaters, cooking, laundry, vehicles, and then the miscellaneous, the barbecue grills and all that stuff.
Yep, it's good for our health. It's good for the planet, all those things.
Yeah. Go ahead with this one, Tristan, unless you'd like me to.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Tristan mentioned health just now. Numerous studies in recent years are finding that, guess what? Burning fossil fuels inside our dwellings isn't great for our lungs. And so my 8-year-old granddaughter, Hazel, has asthma, and I don't know whether or not to attribute it to gas cooking, but her family has lived in houses with gas stoves for all of her life. And basically, that increases the risk of childhood asthma by 42%. A statistic that Sean often cites is that living in a home with a gas stove is like living in a home with a smoker. It's like being exposed to pretty heavy secondhand smoke. So just a ton of reasons to consider electrifying, and we'll be talking more about the how than the why during this show as usual. But the why is just so obvious once you think about it.
And on top of it all, it's all about saving money in the end and reducing our energy, reducing our bills, and having a much more comfortable life. And I just wanted to share Wendy's story. She came on one of the very first shows, and she has been so grateful to the show and has since gone solar, has added a hot water heater and actually hugging her hot water heater, has upgraded her electric box and taken advantage of so many rebates that we're going to talk about that a little bit later as well. And Wendy has come back. And now, Joe, we want to hear about our case study with Sean today.
Yes, case study today was my Keystone project with Rewiring America, and it's my friend Jerry O'Connor's house. And Jerry and I both live in a very coastal climate, and we share certain attributes in our home that make us an ideal candidate for electrification. Today was a record heat day throughout a lot of Los Angeles and the valleys, but I don't think it ever got above 70 degrees here at my house, and it was mostly foggy and overcast, and that's the kind of conditions that Jerry deals with. So just real briefly, Jerry, your house is built in 1950. It's exceptionally small by today's standards. It's 819 square feet. You don't have a basement or a crawl space. You have a very low ceiling attic. You're lucky enough to have already upgraded your electric panel, and you've got 200 amps. So you're good to go with any kind of electrification additions you want. Right now, you've got gas heat, you've got a gas oven and stove, and you've got a gas tankless water heater, a gas dryer, and a gas jacuzzi heater. And on the rare days that you need air conditioning, you've got a portable unit. So those are the things we're going to take a look at. And Sean is going to review with you what you've got and what you could have. And take it away, Sean.
All right, thanks very much. Appreciate it very much, Joe. So yeah, let's dig into the O'Connor residence manor. Now, this is an outside picture. Let me get it up on big screen. Lovely little house. I, by the way, live in a house that's 100 square feet, 140 if you count the loft. So when you're saying like 1819 is small, like, well, it's 8 of my houses small, but yeah, it's very nice. Nice little house. So it was mentioned, it has this 200 amp panel and it has space for more breakers. If you look over here on the right hand side, there's lots of metal tabs that can be punched out with a new breaker added. So no issues there. We don't have to worry about your power supply or having to replace the panel because there's not enough space or putting in a sub panel. You don't have any of those issues. This is like an easy electrification, really. Now, why don't you tell us about your wall heater?
Sure. I've got a pretty simple, original, again, 1950 house. This is the original wall heaters. There's 2 of them. You can see the one with 2 tubes in it. That's in the living room, and it heats the living and dining area, kitchen. And right immediately behind it, sharing the gas jet, is the single tube heater that heats the 2 bedrooms and the bathroom. So pretty old, but does the trick. We actually, as Joe mentioned, pretty mild climate. So if we turn that heater on, maybe 10 times in the winter, that would be typical.
Okay, you don't need much. And these are probably almost more heat than you need. Like, you don't leave them on for a long time, I expect.
No, and if we turn them on, we just turn them on while we're up in the evening and turn them off for the night. So yeah, those 10 times we turn it on approximately, it's probably on for 2 or 3 hours maybe. And no thermostat. So it does have you can adjust the heat, the level of the flame in them, but that's the only thermostat manual adjustment of the flame.
Okay, so and by the way, I'm just noting Virginia, Anders, I'm going to get to your comment on cloud cover and solar in a sec. So I was thinking that what you would need is an 18,000 BTU heat pump, and each of these wall-mounted fan coils would be a 9,000 BTU, and 18,000 BTUs is probably still up to twice as much as what your house might experience in peak, but it's also plenty enough for your small house. And I put the Mr. Cool brand up here both because it was an easy picture to find, but it's actually one that I like because it's easier to install. It has pre-charged refrigerant tubes. Usually you have to have a refrigerant technician show up in order to install a heat pump, and they put the refrigerant in and they make sure that it was clean before they put the refrigerant in, and then they make sure it's pressurized, there's no leaks, and they're a technician with a stamped license that they work with. This doesn't require that trade. You don't need to have a refrigerant technician because you're not going to charge the refrigerant. You're not going to pour it in. You're not going to pressurize it. It all comes pre-done. So Mr. Cool is an interesting brand that does that. They've got very efficient heat pumps, but you could really choose Mitsubishi or Fujitsu, or you should always get 3 bids and ask someone who'd like to have 2 fan coils and a compressor outside, and you could fit it in next to your house pretty low profile. See? Do you have any questions about that, though? Do you have any thoughts like, maybe I want this, though? I want a ducted system now. I want to...
Well, if it's pre-charged, so I mean, the mini split units are pre-connected. I mean, how do you plumb that in then? How does that work?
Well, so this box here with the fan in it, that's going to sit outside. And then usually you have one thin copper pipe that goes to each of the 2, like one for each fan coil on the wall inside. Now that copper pipe, which comes with a lot of insulation around it to keep it, because it's either really hot or really cold liquid in there, but that copper pipe has to get charged on site usually. And this is something where the pipes come in a coil, like wrapped up in a circle, and you carefully unwrap them, and you clamp it onto your compressor outside, that heat pump with the fan thing, and it goes then into the fan coil inside. And just all you have to do is essentially like what a carpenter would do, is like use the nuts and the bolts and click it in, and the refrigerant is already in that tube that was coiled up, and it just it fits into both, and you're done.
Are you suggesting DIY, that Jerry might install this himself?
Yeah, or like it is definitely do-it-yourself friendly.
That sounds great for me. Thank you, Joe. You gave me the good lead in. I do have an engineering background, and I'm a big do-it-yourselfer, and that sounds easy because clearly I would install that outside, run the lines up through my attic, and right down into where the general area where the heaters are now, where I would put the mini splits. So that sounds easy. Great.
It is. Like, we just did it on a double wide house from 1973 to a ducted system, and the main thing you need to do is buy the correct length of the pipe. And you're an engineer, you can measure. You know how things loops, and so just as long as you get the right length, then you don't have problems.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that it is advertised as a DIY, and the engineering professor that installed it himself was my engineering staff person. They just worked at it for a couple of days, and it was the kind of hard work that makes your knuckles kind of gritted and like, oh, I worked hard. Not brain hard, just working hard, pulling things.
I already envisioned exactly where I can locate it and put it in. That's great.
Hey, all right, Mr.
There's
Cool.
a ton of info online about those systems as well.
Yeah, you can get them at Lowe's, get it delivered to you, order the right pipe lengths when you're ordering it. I've done it. It's not that hard.
Cool.
And it'll save you a bunch of money if you do it yourself. To go back to that real quickly, if you purchase this for, say, $3,000 or $2,500, whatever, you purchase it, 18,000 BTUs would normally install for about $8,000. It's about $5,000 to $7,000 per 12,000 BTUs of installed costs out there for doing this kind of work. So you can see how it's roughly triple or quadruple, but it should be at least triple whatever you purchase something for as its final installed cost when you work with another contractor. Triple is pretty much the best deal you get. So yeah, save a bunch of money. It's the most
Sean,
expensive
you're motivating me.
Well, and it's the most expensive thing you'll do. Like, the stove I'm going to show you here, and the dryer, and that kind of stuff. This is all, cheap. It's $1,000, $2,000 each of these things, and you can add up all of the other things: your stove, your dryer, your water heater, and that fits inside of the budget of the HVAC system, the heating and cooling system. So if you're ever trying to do a budget-oriented thing, go after the HVAC. That is the lion's share. It's 3/4 of the cost of electrifying your house is that. So, okay, now onto your stove. Tell us about your stove.
That's my classic 1950-ish O'Keefe and Merritt gas stove. It's got that's not a double oven. It's got a single oven with a broiler below and a storage bin on the left. 4 burner with a griddle in the middle. And you know, we had some personal attachment to this for lots of years, but we're letting that slide in the interest of electrification and look forward to conduction stovetop. And I've got my wife about halfway convinced that that's a good way to cook, and I'm sure she'll get the rest of the way soon with a little bit of added education, I think.
Well, on the education note here, I did the math on this last night. And so when your car is idling, what kind of car do you have? A gas car, right? Like what kind of gas car do you have?
I've got a few older BMWs.
Right? Okay. So would you say they're like a compact or a sedan or
Name a model.
what's
Yeah,
that?
kind of have a few of each.
Okay, so if it was a small compact car, it would burn about a quart of gasoline while idling an hour, which is equal to roughly 20,000 BTUs. If it's a bigger car, it would burn about 2 quarts, half a gallon, of gasoline in an hour while it was idling, or 40,000 BTUs. A stove burner, when you turn it on, is somewhere between 7 and 10,000 BTUs when you're like trying to make water boil. The fast ones go up to 18,000 BTUs, like on fancy stoves, but you don't have that. You have like 7 to 10,000 BTU burners. So 2 of them on, trying to get the water boiled, heating up a pan, that kind of thing, is equal to the muffler exhaust of your car, your small car. Your bigger cars, that equals 4 of the burners on. So the idea is that you probably cook on 2 burners sometimes, cooking on like frying something here, boiling something there, and that is the same amount of air, that's the same amount of gas being burnt as your car when it's idling, the small car. It's a lot of pollution. That's what we were talking earlier, how it's like cigarette, like someone just smoking a cigarette in the kitchen. It's the same amount of nitrous oxides in the house, same amount of carbon monoxide. It's equal to like about a couple packs of, I did the whole BTU calculation. Let me just say, it is like about a dozen cigarettes being burnt for each meal, about a half a pack of cigarettes per meal. So the option that I wanted to present you to your half a pack of cigarettes a day habit that you have is induction stoves. So I went into Consumers Report, and these are the top rated induction stoves. LG Studio, which is like $2,600 and up. Frigidaire, which is only $1,400, is a 92. That's a second rated stove. It was one of the first ones to come out, and I've avoided them because they had issues, but they've come a long way to having an excellent stove. And so that's what you see here. It has 5 burners on it. You can kind of see the outline of that one in the middle there, similar to how you have a middle griddle there. And it has a broiler, has an excellent broiler, has an oven, of course. And you're just going to find that it'll do as good or better of a job at everything. It'll definitely boil water at least twice as fast. The BTUs that will be going into your water will make it feel like you're boiling 2 to 3 times as fast as you can on this stove here. One other thing, it's a personal story, but my mother-in-law, Nan, she got us an old-fashioned chamber stove. I'd searched, it's like, this is the one I want. It's got it insulated and everything. It's from 1959. We found it in someone's field, dragged it out, dented the vehicle, getting it up here, a whole bunch of drama, got it into the house, massive thing. Used it for some years, had to light it every time, huge explosions of flame, you know, not the safest thing for having little kids. And I started learning how dangerous they were for the kids' health, because I'm the cook and I'm always the person like hanging out over this thing, and then all the pollution is getting the kids because it's heavier than air. But when Nan died in the Tubbs fire in Santa Rosa, the first big fire in Santa Rosa, I dragged the goddamn thing out and tossed it. It was like she dragged it in, and she was an environmentalist who died in one of the first big climate change related fires. She had she was like 60 and she had cancer when she was a kid, and the radiation therapy damaged her lungs, so she died from coughing and from the smoke, you know. So I understand people's emotional attachments to stoves, and you know, we all had an emotional attachment to Nan one way or another, and she's dead. She's one of those climate change folks that died, just like in North Carolina where Tristan is. You know, people die because of these things. So it's worth trying to re-examine things. Sorry, my son has a question. Yes, sir.
Lobster mushrooms for a soup.
Lobster mushrooms for a soup. I would fry them with butter and garlic
Well, the
first.
one thing I'll add while Sean is
Yeah,
busy
and
here
then
too,
get the
is
oil
that
out.
I'm pretty sure the IRA rebates have a pretty hefty $700 plus rebate for an induction stove. So that will factor in perhaps to the price for you as well.
Yeah, save some money. So LG, best brand, Frigidaire, GE, LG again, those are the top four. Just grab that today for you. Then, oh, and just so you know, it's if you're the cook, you're the person who has all the same health symptoms as someone who lives in the house with someone who smokes cigarettes 2 packs a day in the living room. That's the way to think of it. If you're the cook, you are secondhand smoking a couple packs of cigarettes. The other people in your house, they're not 2 packs of cigarettes. They're more like 1 or half a pack cigarette smokers, as the air, as the smoke diffuses into the house. It's invisible smoke, but it's just like a gasoline fire. It's the same stuff. So here, tell us about your dryer. And you got a washer. You got kind of an old-fashioned top-loader washer there and a dryer.
Yeah, I'm kind of an old-fashioned kind of guy, and they work fine for us. But again, you know, gas dryer kind of convention. You know, the house had a gas hookup there when I bought it some 38 years ago, and so we put in a gas dryer and replaced it maybe once since then. I don't know, twice probably. But happy to go electric with that too. You know, just kind of went with what we had, but in the interest of electrification, I think it's an easy change.
Yeah, it should be easy for you. So you have a lot of options. So I'm going to just walk you through a couple of them. So one option is you put in a 30 amp electric resistance circuit there, so that spot, 240 volt, 30 amp. And that's your standard electric resistance dryer. Just buy any electric resistance dryer you want. They're about $700. If you want to save energy, then you can get a heat pump dryer. These are like the Energy Star version. So here you have an LG Bespoke. That's just their brand. LG, it's not bespoke. It's just what they call it. 7.8 cubic foot. It's huge. So bedding, dog beds, all that kind of stuff. And it's a hybrid heat pump dryer, which means it has electric resistance in it to just make sure that you are never without fast, dry laundry. So this is kind of designed for like the big family, and the person who's in charge of laundry is like, I got 5 loads to do today. I'm just pumping it on a hybrid mode. I'm going to burn through this. And it also gives you the latitude to be like, there's no rush. You can just put it on the heat pump mode, and it's going to take 2 hours instead of 1 hour. So, and they save energy. They're about half as much energy to 1/3 as much energy as an electric resistance dryer, but they cost like $2,000.
Yeah.
So this is a big one, and there's smaller ones that are more like $1,500 and $1,200, just so you know. And then on the bottom, this is a different option. This is what I have, a condensing washer dryer. The washer part of it is it's a front loader washer with a very fast spin cycle, so you can really get the water out. And that's the most energy efficient way to get laundry dry, is to extract it, you know, through centrifugal force. Your top loader, that spins at 400 RPM. And your front loader, the one I'm recommending, is a washer that spins at 1200 to 1400 RPM. And you get almost 3 times as much water out through the extraction process as you speed it up. So when you get these combined machines, the two here at the bottom, Consumer Reports didn't like the machine that I have. They gave it a 69. Samsung is the best out there. So anyway, what it does is it's a terrific washing machine. I think it's great, gets the laundry clean. Then it slowly dries it with electric resistance, but only 1400 watts versus that 30 amp 240, that's 7200 watts of heating. So talking about like 1/4 as much, 1/5 as much heating going on. So the machine, what it really did is it got rid of the water extraction, and then it's just doing a slow and steady heating it. So you can get a combined washer dryer for 2000, or these are like $1,700, $1,800, the combined machines. And you might consider that. You might have 2 washing machines then. A little silly, but this would allow you to then plug it in without having to put a new circuit. These combined washer dryers, they use 120-volt outlets. Whatever outlet is nearby, you can just plug this into it. The same outlet as your washing machine there is what they're designed for, so that you can code compliantly put in a dryer, run it on the washing machine circuit, and no code official is upset. It's how it's designed to work. So, Jerry, do you have any thought on your laundry drying habits of what I just said?
Well, I really appreciate the education on the options available, because it does make me think about a few things. Currently, our needs are very simple. And in fact, I would say that 75% of the laundry that we do doesn't even go in the dryer. It goes on a clothesline in the backyard. That's how old-fashioned we are. But we also have the climate for it year-round. So the dryer gets very little use. So from our current use, just my wife and I in the home, that's it. Our current use is very limited. So I probably wouldn't tend for our use to go to an extreme investment for better efficiency and removing the water. I understand that would make a dryer a whole lot more effective, getting more water out of the laundry. However, we do have a possible future of renting this home out. And if we were to do that, so the small home that it is, most of the small homes like this near us have been leveled and replaced with McMansions. So it's a very, very popular market for a young family with, say, 1 or 2 children, maybe even in our little tiny house. And they would have a much higher laundry need. And for them, it might make sense to do one of the other options that you're suggesting. So I'd have to think that through. Do we want to do it for ourselves right now, or do we want to prepare for that rental market, or maybe make that change later?
Yeah,
when we do decide to rent the house out.
That is a classic split incentive of trying to make a choice for a future group of people that don't exist or have opinions. Yeah. And I think my recommendation, because I work in affordable housing, rental housing, is that you get the thing that you want.
Yeah.
Start there, make it sense for you. You don't know how long you're going to live there. It might be a very long time. Hope it is, you know? So
one consideration I would add, Jerry, is that these options are perfect to have in place when your equipment dies. A lot of times I'm a little late with friends recommending that they get a heat pump water heater because their water heater, dies. It floods their garage or basement and they have to get one quick, and it's almost always a gas. So it's great to know that when the life of your dryer is over, that you very well may want to replace it with an electric. And because you don't have need for super fast drying, maybe just a simple heat pump dryer.
Well, and heat pumps are almost as fast electric resistance. I'll put it out there as I have 3 kids, and I got a combined washer dryer because it meant when I put in dirty laundry, diapers, and all the rest of it, it came out clean and dry. It was just like very low drama for me. I put it in, it comes out dry and clean, and I can go fold it and put it away. And that just solved a lot of conflicts of, you left the laundry in the machine, you have to go take it out. Like just the kind of nonsense that with. I have an ex now, not a wife, and an ex now. So I'm telling you, having a combined machine can reduce some friction in life. No, you got choices, is what I'm saying.
And there is a rebate in the IRA for an electric heat pump dryer as well.
Yeah, I think like $780, something like that.
Yes.
So I showed you this. Just want to reemphasize that, you know, a compact car is equal to 2 gas burners on a stove, just idling.
With
You know,
no catalytic converter.
yeah, I mean, catalytic converters take out about 90% of the NOx if they're working correctly,
Yeah.
down to 30% if they're not. And there is nothing removing NOx from these gas stoves, which is why they're so rough on your lungs. So it's an equal amount of gas being burnt, but the stoves are a dirtier burn. So this is your water heater. Why don't you tell us about it? Tell us like tell us about your bathroom situation. You have a shower? Do you have a big bathtub?
Yeah.
What's
So this is, again, with the small house, we basically have one wet wall of the house. This water heater is in the center of it. If you're looking at the water heater there in that picture, the kitchen is to the right and the bath is, that shutter in the picture is the shutter of the bathroom windows. So the bathroom is right through the wall there. And the bathroom has a standard bathtub and shower combination. Bathtub never gets used. It's just a shower, essentially, for my wife and I. And it's a tankless gas water heater that actually I not too long ago replaced my in-house conventional tank gas water heater with this tankless one. But I'm not concerned about replacing that, even though it's in full service now, because the timing was perfect that my neighbor was upgrading theirs, and I grabbed this one out of use from my neighbor and got it for free and did the conversion myself. And so it cost me nothing to do that conversion. I'd be happy to replace this one with one of the options you're about to tell me about. So
excellent. Well, yeah, what you have there is it's a very, back when people were most concerned about how to reduce standby losses from like heat releasing from the tank, they're like, okay, let's go to on-demand, and that will also make it so we never run out. So there's two thoughts there, never ending and also less heat waste. But what they weren't analyzing is that there's the most greenhouse gas pollution comes from gas on demands. They put out a significant puff of methane before they ignite, and so there's a built-in leak. And it might be up to like 1% of the gas delivered to your house is leaking just through the gas on-demand gas water heater. Keeping in mind that a 2% leak is equal to burning coal. So this is a very significant bad thing for the environment on each of the gas on-demands. Pardon, the cat wanted out. So if you were to go to an electric on-demand, you have plenty of power. We mentioned you have a 200 amp panel, and this 75 amps, 46 amps, and 25 amps for these 3 different quantities of hot water you can get per minute. You, when you're putting them into a panel, you multiply it by 40% or 0.4. So 75 amps of its actual demand on your panel equals 30 amps of rated impact on your 200 amp panel. So 30 amps out of 200 is what this is taking up in terms of your service. Nonetheless, you'll put in a 75 amp breaker and it can consume up to 75 amps at peak. So this is equal to a very fast EV charger. That's what that does for you. It's 18 kW, which 18 kW, when you go to the side of the road, that's a slow EV charger. But when people are at home, 18 kW, which equals 75 amps, that is a fast EV charger. Home versus side of the road. So up to 4.4 gallons per minute. Tell me about your shower head. Is it a 2.0 gallon per minute shower head? Is it a 1.5? Is it 2.5? Is it like a big rain shower just hammering you with water?
no, it's a conventional shower head, simple without a restrictor though. But I'm in the habit, perhaps my wife not as much, but I'm in the habit of, I've got a shut-off valve on it, and I do Navy showers. I turn the water on to get myself wet, turn it off, lather up, turn it on to rinse myself off, and kind of a done deal after that.
When you're producing hot water for a shower, it is only 60% of the water that you're using. 40% is cold. So 4.4 gallons per minute equals 60% of the total massive load. So you could think of it, oh my God, that's hard for me to do. I think that's another 20, so it's like 7 gallons per minute of total showering that you could be doing with that top one. So that means 3 people showering at once. How many bathrooms do you have again? One, right? Okay, so if I were to take you down to a 25 amp model, which is only about $400 to purchase, so cheap you'll barely notice, and it's 1.9 gallons per minute, let's say that that's roughly then a 3 gallons per minute of showering that you could do. Your unrestricted shower flow is probably 2 gallons to 2.5 gallons per minute, maybe shower or not. So this smallest one sounds like it can meet your showering needs and maybe someone washing their hands or a little bit of dishwashing happening at the same time. But it could be dicey. You could get that cold ooh feeling when someone's doing the dishes.
Or flush the toilet.
Right. That's so hopefully not flush the toilet. I know it changes water pressure and things, but hopefully you don't have hot water going to it. We do in Wisconsin, man. You sit on a toilet, it's like steaming your butt in the summertime because it's so cold in some parts of Wisconsin. They run hot water to the toilet. It's crazy, weird. So that's this range: 75 amps, 46 amps, 25 amps. And I think that your small house kind of should use the 25 amp model from what I'm hearing. And you could upsize it. Just note, more power. You have the power. Now, conversely, this is the least power. This would be using the equivalent of about 3 amps using the same metrics over here, if it was at 240 volt. 2.5 even. But 3, just call it 3. So very tiny amount of power in the moment that it uses. And it's got a heat pump on it, so it collects about 2/3 of the energy in the tank from the environment. Maybe more if it's decent weather outside. Get up to like 3 units of the total 4, for instance, 3/4, 2/3. It's in that range of the energy collected from the environment. So if you were to stick this tank right there, it's a 66-gallon tank, and it has an electric resistance backup element in it so that it can run even when it's really cold out 1 day a year. It would still have a little bit of heat made from a 900-watt element. And I know that's important because there was a cold snap in Louisiana where they were testing out like 20 of these tanks of different brands. And the vortex came through in January. And the A.O. Smiths that were outside, people didn't notice that the heat that had gotten so cold out. But the Rheem tanks and the Bradford Whites that didn't have the electric resistance backup, people complained that the heat pump wasn't working because it was like 30-something degrees out. So if you have an outside tank, I recommend A.O. Smith's 120-volt model. So what do you think about these things I just said to you? What's your response?
They actually, but I'd have to give consideration to both because I've gotten used to tankless and again, with the small house and 1 watt wall, it's very short lead time for immediate heating to get the hot water. But so we've become accepting of that. But that said, a tank hot water heater obviously gives you instant hot water or a little more instantly. And I like the idea of the heat pump. What's the general price range of the heat pump type model?
Good question. So on the electric resistance, you're buying something between $400 and $1,000. On the heat pump water heaters, you're buying something between $1,600 and $3,200. And that's really based upon the tank volume. So like $1,600 is a 40-gallon, $1,900 is a 50-gallon, that kind of thing, a few $100s for each 10-gallon increment. The compressor on top doesn't change. It's only the increment of tank that is changing the value of it. And a little bit on brands. A.O. Smiths are a little bit more expensive for the same size because of the electric resistance inside, and they're really quiet. They're 45 decibels. The Rheems are 55 decibels, which is physically 10 times as loud, but experienced by our ear is 4 times as loud because our brain adjusts things. But still, it's a lot louder. Not a little bit, a lot. So I think the Rheems are good, but they should be put into a closet with insulation, like acoustic insulation, or in a garage or things like that. And A.O. Smiths are quiet. Well, you can think about it. You know, you got a couple of, and since I'm going to recommend you put up a solar array and you don't use a lot of hot water, maybe that's going to be a good. Electric resistance is, it's nice and clean.
Yeah.
So tell us, when do you use this little portable AC here?
Even less than we use the heater, because again, being coastal, and our house is positioned and has ventilation such that we have wonderful flow through air of ocean breezes. So we open the front door, open the back door, and it hardly ever gets hot enough. But we do have occasional heat waves, and such. And although we didn't use it at all this past summer, I believe it was last year that we used it. We probably broke it out. Like the picture of it, it's stored away in my shed. But when we do use it, we bring it in, and either my wife often works in our second bedroom, which is an office, and we put it in there, or sometimes we even put it in the living room. And there are convenient windows to vent it out of in each, because that's, portable unit needs to be vented out the window. But we probably did the year that we used it a lot, we probably used it maybe 10 times.
Okay.
Through the summer months.
It's a little crazy, but think about it for a moment. This, on the right-hand side, this is a 1-ton, 12,000 BTU version of what you have there. And it's quiet. It's down like that 45, 42 decibels range. And I gave one to one of my staff. She was able to nurse her baby who was sleeping by sitting right next to it. She thought, like, this thing is relatively quiet. Not so bad. And it's because it has a computer in it, an inverter, quote unquote. So it operates on DC power inside, which is quieter fans and quieter stuff. Has the ability to modulate itself up and down because it's got a computer as opposed to on and off switches, very analog, most of these machines. And you could heat your house with this same thing. Like, let's say you parked it behind the couch where you're usually going to put AC on 4 times a summer, 10 times a summer. Leave it there. Same thing. You're using the heat 10 times in the wintertime. Just use that. It'll heat down to like 35 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's how my partner, he had a 1,500 square foot house up here that he very well insulated. And he heated his entire house on one of those. And he said it was heating his house better than his ducted ground source heat pump, $40,000 installation. This $700 thing offline did a better job. And it was quieter because it was just over in one room. And the heat pump furnace turns on and off with a fairly loud blower. A lot of people have gas furnaces. Well, in the same case, he has a ducted heat pump, ground source heat pump. So anyway, crazy idea, but you probably only need this one thing for your whole house.
Possible alternative to the heat pump mini split.
Yeah, and so if I was saying get this system, it's maybe $7,000 to $8,000, $10,000 to install that ductless mini split. Even your do-it-yourself is a $3,000 couple days of work kind of thing. $700.
Plugs right in.
Plugs right in. So tell us about your hot tub.
The jacuzzi in the backyard. I've been through iterations. Had an electric heater for a while, but when that gave up, I converted it to gas. Obviously, electrification wasn't on my radar at that time. That was some years ago. Been through a couple of gas heaters, and so this is the one that I've got now. Certainly open to electrifying that as well.
Well, there's hot tubs out there that are just 120-volt electric resistance hot tubs that you can just buy and plug in. Not efficient, and you don't necessarily want to throw out your very nice hot tub. So if you take out your Mini Max 75, which I think that means a 75,000 BTU heat pump, that's what my guess is.
I think that's correct.
This is a 100,000 BTU swimming pool / jacuzzi heater, and it can go up to 110 degrees Fahrenheit, the Pentair Ultra Temp jacuzzi and pool heater. Most hot tub and pool heaters, because they're usually the same technology. They just say, lower volume of water or higher temperature. It's like this thing heats a whole swimming pool at 70 degrees to 80 degrees. It heats your hot tub to 110. And those two things might be equivalent tasks. So this $3,000 to $5,000 Pentair Ultra Temp Jacuzzi pool heater would be what I recommend you stick in that spot if you don't want to go for electric resistance. Electric resistance is one of the things, like, it's cheap up front, but it costs a lot overall. And the question I have for you, Jerry, is do you leave your hot tub hot, or do you just turn it on every once in a while? Because it might be more energy efficient to heat it up with electric resistance every once in a while than put in an expensive heat pump to keep it hot all the time.
Yeah, we don't keep it hot all the time. I would say we keep it warm all the time. We use it frequently enough and then heat it up, but by warm, I mean, 75, 80 degrees, just because it retains heat from the last time we used it. But we definitely turn on the heat when we're going to use it, let it heat up, and then use it and turn the heat off.
Are you telling me that you turn the gas heat off in between times of using it and just retains its heat naturally? Or do you leave the gas on?
Choice A. We turn the heat off.
Okay. Well, this $3,000 to $5,000 jacuzzi pool heater, to me, sounds like it's a little bit overkill. And that you should consider putting in an electric resistance pool or hot tub heater. And I didn't look that up, but I kind of just showed you what it looks like. This would be something like this, where you'd circulate hot water back to it, and you'd use electric resistance, not this heat pump. This is not for pool heating, just to be clear. They're designed very differently. So, okay. So here you go.
Yeah, and certainly my goal, and it sure seems like we're headed in the direction of removing all gas use, and that would be my goal here as well. So
go for it.
Yeah.
So I think this was the last slide here, is to talk about your roof. So one of the first comments was cloudiness. And so I'm up in the cloudiest part of perhaps the whole United States. Seattle might be a competitor, or it's Arcata. It's hard to say, but it's 50% cloud cover. And that means 1,100 kilowatt hours per kilowatt are produced per year here. You are living in a place where you get closer to 1,600, even though you're also close to the beach. You get a lot less mist and cloud cover than we get up here. You get like 50% more energy produced from your roof. Even up here, it's cost effective, dramatically cost effective to put up solar. People should be doing it here. Makes financial sense. Definitely makes financial sense for you. So your roof, I didn't do an analysis, but I know that your 200 amp service that you have, your service can hold 8 kW of solar panels, 8 kilowatts. 1 kilowatt is 2 sheets of plywood. It's about 60 square feet. To get a sense of how much space that might take up on your roof. And you should put it on the south and west and east side. And some people even put it on the north side of their homes. And because you have a pretty shallow roof, you'd still get a decent amount of sunshine. And I do affordable housing where they put it on the walls, in which you only get about 50% of the productivity. Your north side might cost you 20%, not some radical, terrible loss, because you have a pretty flat roof and don't get a lot of sunshine in the summertime. So your house, 4 kilowatts. We see in apartments, generally the smallest amount that people use is about 3 kilowatts on an apartment. This is average. People can use less, but anyway, I think maybe 4 kilowatts for your house and 2 kilowatts for each of your cars. 2 kilowatts of solar producing the amount that it does there is enough for the average driver in the United States, give or take, like 12,000 miles or so. 2 kilowatts on the roof produces 12,000 miles of driving. So if you have 2 EVs, that'd be 4 kilowatts up on the roof, and that would pretty much produce all the energy that you are consuming in a year. How that all works out with our utilities, that's always a mess. But if you can try to schedule it so you can use the energy mostly during the day, it's worth it.
Well, Jerry has the advantage of being in a city that's a member of the Clean Power Alliance, the CCA down here, and they have special incentives they give a little bit more NEM than SCE does. They have incentives for electric cars and electric car chargers and batteries. And Sean, do you want to mention, well, it seems like one of the ways to get around the reduction in what the utility pays you now for excess production is by having a battery, because
Yeah,
of
or and you can think of your cars as a big battery, like charge your cars during the day, because those are, each car is like a 70 to 80 kilowatt hour battery, and a house battery is 13 kilowatt hours. So
yeah.
if you can schedule filling your car during the day, that's the big empty batteries for you. So we've had all sorts of questions. I see 27 things in the chat, and we also trying to finish on time-ish, so we have maybe 10 minutes left. And I'm wondering, can I take a couple questions off the side here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sean, this is Tom. I see
Thank
one
you.
here towards the end. Andrea was wondering if you or Joe have heard of the Harvest thermal system and what you think about it.
So I was just hanging out with Pierre Delforge. I helped start the Harvest Thermal System company. Have not in the sense of being co-owner, but in a variety of different ways. I've been involved with them since day one, trying to get them a grant, etc. Tight relationship. They have done something kind of brilliant, which is they've calculated the amount of energy that they're storing in an extra tank of hot water, and it's a thermal battery. It's like a 5 kilowatt hour thermal battery. And so they have gotten their system, which is an HVAC system, heating and cooling the house, and domestic hot water. They've gotten to qualify for the 30% tax credits for batteries. Now that all of a sudden makes a system that was not that cost effective before pretty cost effective. Now, if you need air conditioning, you're still going to put in a standard air conditioner to your house. And we saw here for Jerry's house, that might just be a little tiny window AC, portable roll around heat pump air conditioner. But let's say that it was a house you needed a fair amount of AC for, inducted. They are basically saying, hey, we've got an excellent, super duper high efficiency heat pump water heater. We heat your water for your house. This is so much, the size of this heat pump is so big that we're going to store extra hot water, and you're going to be able to use that for your house, for just heating your house. That's cool. And if it was just that, that'd be a very cost-effective ounces of battery, 30% tax credit system. But if you need air conditioning, then you need to put a second compressor outside and run a refrigerant line to your fan coil. And I'm not as much of a fan of that, because in my head, it'd be better to put in a standalone tank type heat pump water heater like this, and then put in, as you saw, a dedicated heat pump air conditioner. Because as long as you're putting in an air conditioner, just make it a heat pump air conditioner. And that's a much simpler system that's designed to do exactly that. Harvest has installed 200 of their systems so far, which is dramatic and awesome. But, this is compared to tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands. Because some of these larger companies have a lot more behind them, and that matters. So I would generally recommend, this is me, I generally recommend split systems, a heat pump for space heating, cooling, and then a tank type for your water heating. And those two, that's the least expensive, usually the most efficient. And Harvest, because they're doing an exceptionally good job with heating the water, they are the most efficient space heating and water heating system that you can purchase right now. So if that matters to you, they are maybe 20 to 30% more efficient than you can get in almost any other way at doing their job. So it's complex. I like them, and I think it's cool that they can get a tax credit, and it doesn't exactly fit into the way I think things should be designed, but I'm happy they're doing it, supportive of it. And particularly in climates that are heating only, it's perfect. The other questions, Tom, that you can draw my attention to, so that I can offer my opinion?
Let's see.
Stephen Bagstad.
Well,
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to mention one other thing about the Harvest, though. In Joe's case, it might play well with the solar PV in that it gently drinks up about 15 amps of power across the day if it's busy charging that tank. And so that's a great use of that excess solar, another way to store that energy.
Yeah. It's true. You have the solar run the water heater storage system, and store it as a thermal battery, which is a cheap battery. Water is a very cheap battery. Robert Sewell, you said, I thought the reams are 49 decibels. They are claiming that now, and for the last few years, they were claiming 55 decibels, and some people were reporting higher levels because they got a bad supply of fans during COVID, and that was one of the global supply chain impediments is fans. The whole world is struggling for fans. So they got kind of a black eye for putting in noisy fans. But yes, they're supposed to be quieter now. And I'd still stand by my recommendation that Aerosmith is definitely the quietest of the 120 volt types. And if you're trying to get even quieter, LG makes a 240 volt heat pump water heater, and it's 42 decibels. It's very, very, very quiet. Almost inaudible.
I will say, Sean, when you go from a gas to a heat pump, electric water heater, that the noise is a very noticeable difference. If your water heater is inside and it's not in an insulated space, you're going to hear it. I'd say it's even louder than a loud refrigerator compressor going off and on.
That makes sense. The compressor in a refrigerator is about 3,000 BTUs, and the compressor on a heat pump water heater is about 4,500. So it has just a bigger fan and a bigger compressor. So the ones that are designed to be quiet, like the LG at 42 decibels, that's a quiet dishwasher. And we've all been next to quiet dishwashers. You can barely tell they're working. So it's like you pay for what you get, though. So LG is going to be more expensive, and the least expensive are going to be the noisiest. And you just have to think about that, about where they go and what do you want to pay for quiet. Okay, so then Robert Sewell, you say the LG water heater is also very sexy looking. If you're attracted to water heaters, I guess it's on you. I've never, just wear a condom,
Well, we did have a slide of a woman hugging one at the beginning of the presentation.
We do.
And yes, I have seen it. It is a very good looking heat pump water heater. It's very sleek. Yeah, sort of 1980s black aesthetic, black and shiny. Andrea, you say another advantage of using a heat pump water heater is that when you get next to the big earthquake, you'll have 60 gallons of water stored. Yes, it's for resiliency. I think having tanks of water around is agreed. It's like, that's nice. They have like clean drinking water, 50 gallons of it. Yes, Robert, I absolutely agree that it is very sexy, and I was just teasing. So let's see. We're at 628.
And Stephen just shared that Stephen, you want to share about your washer dryer that you just put in?
Yeah.
Looks really cool.
Sure. We've had, I guess we had something like a 24-year-old electric dryer. Amazing that it was still functioning, although it was definitely having problems, which is why we went to, look at something different. And I passed up the picture. I'm not sure if you guys could put that up, but we ended up deciding to go with an LG one. The combined unit to do that we talked about earlier didn't fit what my wife wanted to do. She wanted to stay more conventional, so we got the 2 units and replaced the washer, which wasn't that old and was still pretty functional, but still, it's time, and we thought it might be nice to have a matching pair. So there you go. And we're also not getting any younger, so we decided to go with pedestals, to get them up a little higher, to make them more accessible and all that. And that's proving to be a really good decision. We've had them for a couple months now. And I think one of the funny stories we heard from the whole thing was the heat pump dryer does not have a vent to the outside, right? And so I asked the people that delivered and set them up, I said, well, what do you do about closing off the old vents that used to go to the outside? And he said, well, just go to a hardware store and get a thing to, a plug for it. I said, okay. So we did. I went to an Ace Hardware near me and picked up one. I said, got one off the shelf that looked like it was the right thing. And I go over to one of the people there and ask, is this the right thing for, plugging a vent? And he said, oh yeah, a dryer vent. And he said, yeah, that's it. He said, what are you going to be doing? Line drying now? And I said, oh no, we're not allowed to do that in my neighborhood, but we're going to a heat pump clothes dryer. He said, oh, what's that? Kind of funny. The guy at the hardware store had never heard of it. So I thought that was a funny story. But
I think that we all are kind of people who are responsible for explaining to other people. Like how weird is it that you're all here, 26 of us, talking about electrification? So it's definitely us at the hardware store that's explaining new things to people. We're the leading edge. We're the
Or at the car dealer.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
but good on you.
But anyway, and also somebody's asked me about, he said, well, what happens to the lint? And that was a good question. I did not know the answer to that ahead of time, but it has a two-stage filtration thing in the place where your normal lint, your kind of, somewhat flimsy, typical, vent you or lint filter you'd
Little
have.
screen.
It
Yeah.
has a two-stage one now. So when you do a normal load, you take out the like more crude filter and change that every load, just like you would with a regular dryer. But every 10 loads or so, and it's smart enough to tell you, hey, by the way, Steve, knock, knock, it's time to change the secondary filter. And so you pull that out, and but you can see it's much finer, thing. And it so far so good. We've run it for we had it for several months now. And the claim is that it's supposed to use about a third of the electricity of the resistance dryer. So
Yeah.
we've been real happy with it.
It's excellent. And also, since people usually are doing laundry during peak hours, it can be an extra helpful thing to not use as much electricity then, when you're like coming home. So, well, this was a pleasure, a super duper pleasure. We are at the hour, and if it's okay with you, Tristan, I'm going to jump off and take a walk before the sun sets. I have to go. Hopefully you all are enjoying now. We're like past the fall equinox, and we have like a
Thank
whole
you,
year.
John. Great job today.
Well, thank you so much. And Jerry, thank you so much for sharing your house. And I think we were going to try to get to another heat pump water heater, but we'll have to save that for next time. But it was very generous of you. Thanks for sharing.
My pleasure. Thank you for the great education tonight.
Absolutely.
And we definitely want to have all of you back for November 12th. It's going to be our awesome holiday show. And so please save the date. I will email you the Zoom link to register. And somebody wanted us to cover a decarb fireplace, something an electric fireplace for our next show. So our next show is Home for the Holidays, Dress Festive.
Look at this. For that one, I just purchased this for about $400 off of Amazon, and it's an electric fireplace with a mist that comes out and LED lights in it. It used to be like $1,200, but this is exactly what I'm looking for. It's actually a little bit more advanced than the last one I purchased, which got damaged when there was like a big flood in my office and got all this mud in it. Because I cobbed the walls because I'm an experimental green builder, whatever. So just I'm going to be showing this off. This is just $400 Amazon LED fireplace. It has mist that comes out, looks just like flame. It's so compellingly real.
Okay, I want the link.
Perfect for the holiday.
Sean, after your walk, share it with us. Does anybody have any other questions? Because Tom is still here, I think, or maybe he left. But there were some questions about solar. Pete's here to field any of those. So
I'm taking off. You're going to keep on running.
Go ahead, Sean. We'll see you soon.
Take care, Sean. Thank you.
I also want to let you know that we've got a pocket guide to electrification, which I'm going to email to all of you. Our next holiday special is indeed on November 12th at 5:30. So come for a really festive, fun time. And we are going to promote Rewiring America's website, which is a great place to learn more about the incentives that are out there for electrifying. It's awesome calculator. And
we might have an update by then, too, on California's rollout of the program.
Absolutely. Yeah. Pete was sharing that it's been approved by the Department of Energy, but they're just getting ready to roll it out. We will be putting this show here on our Ask Sean Climate Reality YouTube channel, so you can get all the shows. Another resource for you. We'll be sending all of this out to you guys. And if you have a case study or want to ask about a particular appliance that you want to swap out, please contact us because we would love to have you on the show and help you walk you through what you need to do and answer all your questions, including giving you ideas about installation and how much it might cost and all that good stuff. So anybody have any questions before we go? We will try to answer those or at least email you back. You all good? Virginia, Ginny, did you get your answer on your solar question? Because Pete's here.
So
And
yeah, I mean, we've looked into the HVAC for our house. We have vaulted ceilings, and it's really hard to heat and cool our house. And we live near the beach, but because our houses are so close to each other, the location of the HVAC and the noise that it produces, it potentially is a problem because we don't have a lot of yard space, just like I guess the other beach home.
yeah, and I saw that I think Tom put something into the chat about that, Virginia, and
No,
suggested that one
I didn't read it.
option. No, that's okay. Tom Kabat pointed out that one option you have is to put the outdoor unit on the roof. I don't always love that. I'd rather get it on the north side of the house anytime I can because it's in the shade and has to overcome less of a temperature differential. If you put it on the roof, it's in a very tough heat exchanger environment, but it can still work fine. And I've got the same problem in my yard for water heater. I want to put a tank water heater outside, but that would violate the setback requirements of the city and eat up a precious piece of walkway. So, I'm doing those space trade-offs. The I don't know the makes and model implications nearly as well as Sean does. He was just pulling that stuff out of his head or making it up out of thin air, which is what I usually do. But there are models of heat pump that are below 45 decibels, which is the noise level we were talking about. It's sort of the threshold we were talking about for indoor. And a variety of cities have noise requirements for air conditioner or heat pump outdoor units that limit you to less than 45 decibels at night, I believe, in many cases, and less than 55 during the day. And there's some variation because different cities set different thresholds, but that's a common one that I've come across. So if they're putting out standards that your heat pump can only make that much noise or less, then there must be manufacturers that meet that, and those are possibilities for meeting your need. So I've given you a threshold, but not a make and model. I'm sorry, I can't give you the easy button there.
Okay.
But Jenny, we can also set up a meeting, you and I with Sean directly, and we can walk through some of those things for you.
Okay,
And
that would be great.
there are quiet models that will meet your needs. My model, we've got a Dakin 4-zone, a pretty big 3-ton unit, and it's pretty whisper quiet. You can't hear it in our neighbor's yard at all.
Okay. All right. Well, I thank you.
Yeah, Jenny, we'll set up a time because I have your email with Joe and I and Pete and Sean, and we'll walk through a couple things with you. Does
That would be
sound
great.
good? You got it?
Yes.
Andrea, anybody else have any other questions before we call it a night? But please save November 12th. I'm going to post that tomorrow on our Ask Sean page. And then I will also send you an email if you guys would like to join us for that show. But we'll also record it. So if you RSVP, we will also can send you the show as well. We really feel like we have a great opportunity to collaborate together, all of us, on electrification and on climate health. That's what it's all about. There's so many solutions. They're here. They're ready to roll out, and our voice really does matter. And so, Jerry, thank you so much for sharing your home. We want you to come back and update us on how everything is going. And if you do need a follow-up meeting with us and your wife or what have you, please let us know. We are here for you. We want to see this all happen.
Thank you so
together.
much, Tristan. Thank you so much, Tristan. And I want to also just give a big thanks to Joe Galliani for for leading me through this. He's really been a tremendous help.
And please stay in touch and hope to see you November 12th at 5:30.